Well, hi there, folks. Welcome to the program. This, of course, is Stinchfield, the podcast. What is up with our sick care system? Yes, I call it a sick care system because Americans are not getting healthier. We have all of this technology. We have all of this research. We have all of these brilliant doctors in America, and America continues to get sicker and sicker and sicker. How does that happen? Unless it's all by design. What if Big Pharma actually wants you sick because they profit more off the treatment of your sickness than actually curing any of these diseases? Why are we seeing autism rates through the roof? Why are we seeing cancer rates amongst young people increasing? Listen to this one. Dementia in young people increasing at rates we've never seen before. We can go back to the COVID jab. That could be partially responsible for some of this. We can go to what's in our food. There is a whole host of reasons as to why America is getting sicker and sicker, and why Big Pharma, why the hospital systems, they're all profiting off of all our suffering. Something is wrong with that prospect. Now, I will say this before we start the show and talk about this with our great guest, Dr. James Thorpe. There is a solution to all of this. The Wellness Company is one of them. We talk about cancer. This is Cancer Prevention Month. They have a product out there now called Shield, which is a preventative maintenance peptide-based product that will help you prevent getting cancer. And it was created by Dr. Victory. Many of you know Dr. Victory. She comes on this program a lot. She had breast cancer, and she came up and formulated this product, Shield, which I'll tell you is knocking the socks off of doctors everywhere, researchers everywhere, and of course, patients who are feeling better because of it. So I want you to go to twc.health/grant. Use the promo code GRANT for 10% off and look at this product, Shield. And I'm telling you, you are going to be healthier and live longer because of it. twc.health/grant. Use that promo code GRANT for 10% off. We'll talk about that a little bit later on in the program as well. But I want to know why America's getting sicker and sicker. So let's get the show started.
Uncensored and unapologetic. This is Stinchfield. Here's your host, Grant Stinchfield.
All right, folks. Welcome, everybody. Dr. James Thorpe is my guest. He is with the Wellness Company. Dr. Thorpe, it's great to have you on.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right, we've talked about this, but I'm going to play you a soundbite in a moment from Dr. Casey Means, who literally spells out some of the statistics. But are we wrong in saying America is sicker than ever before, Doc?
You're 100% correct. Your
Why?
monologue was 100% correct.
Why is this?
It's multifactorial. But I think that one of the things that you mentioned in your brilliant monologue is that, it's not just pharmaceutical companies profiteering off this. Listen, it's all of the hospitals, it's all of the insurance companies, and the non-governmental medical organizations, and the medical journals.
So all of those entities profiting off of it, which then leads me to believe they put profits over patients. I don't know how else you look at it.
That's absolutely true. And listen, this is why at this point in time, after all the shenanigans by all of these aforementioned institutions, and I include physicians in this, most Americans now have no respect for physicians because the vast majority of them have gone along with these shenanigans and hiding the truth and pushing the vaccines that are killing and injuring patients and refusing to tell the truth so they can collect their paychecks. So at this point in time, physicians really are not respected at all. I think most, automotive oil changer or even pick any of the other lower professions, and I would say even attorneys, these individuals, Americans have more respect for used car salesmen and oil changers and attorneys than they do physicians.
You do know that I owned oil change shops for about a decade of my adult life, and that was my biggest challenge. It was a brutal business because everybody came in to see you, and they thought you were trying to scam them. And my whole business model was, my motto was, we treat every car like it's mom's. And sadly, you're right, Doc. I go into the doctor's office today, and I instantly suspect every doctor is going to be a liberal. Every doctor's not going to be up on the latest research as to what's really going on, especially with the COVID and the jab. And I don't want to go to doctors anymore unless they're associated with the wellness company, or I've interviewed them before, between you and Dr. McCullough and Dr. Victory and all the other doctors. I don't trust them anymore.
And nobody should. Nobody should trust any of the physicians or the hospitals or the healthcare system. Listen, the physicians are put in a position where they're supposed to see a patient every 10 minutes so that the hospital can make money, right? Okay, that is absurd. I would suggest to you, Grant, that you spent more than 10 minutes with your customers at your oil change shop.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I don't know if it was 10 minutes. I don't know how long it takes to tell them they need a brake flush. But what we would do, all right, which most auto care companies don't, I would bring them out onto the bay floor. I would show them what we found. I would show them the color of what it should be of their brake fluid. I would show them their air filter instead of just telling them they need a new one. All of those things is about information, and people should be allowed to be armed with information. And this is one reason why I think America is getting sicker and sicker. Let me play a clip from you. You're aware of Dr. Casey Means, correct?
Of course.
All right. So, well-respected doctor. Doc, I'll ask you.
I think so. Very controversial.
Controversial. Okay. Let's see if this is controversial, what she says here, or if you agree with her. This is her on with Joe Rogan.
We are getting destroyed, and it's very recent, and it's accelerating. The stats speak for themselves. You know this very well. 74% of Americans are overweight or obese. 50% now of American adults have type 2 diabetes or prediabetes. These were diseases where there was 1% of Americans in 1950 had type 2 diabetes. Now it's 50% of Americans have prediabetes or type 2 diabetes. Alzheimer's dementia are going through the roof. Young adult dementias have increased like 3 times since 2012. So early onset dementias, we're seeing, this 1 in 2 Americans are expected to have cancer in their lifetime now. 1 in 2, and young adult cancers are going up 79% in the last 10 years. We've got, of course, the autism rates are absolutely astronomical. 1 in 36 children has autism now in the United States. That was 1 in 150 in the year 2000. And in California, where I live, it's 1 in 22. 1 in 22 with a lifetime neurodevelopmental disorder. We've got infertility going up 1% per year. 25% of men now under 40 have erectile dysfunction. A quarter of the country. This is fundamentally a metabolic disease. We've got 77% of young Americans can't serve in the military because of obesity or drug abuse. We've got autoimmune diseases. Some studies are saying they're going up 13% per year. It's really unbelievable. And I could go through so many more diseases. Of course.
So, Doc, I don't expect you to fact check her statistics, but I'm pretty amazed she can rattle all those off. Is she wildly wrong on any of this?
I think everything she stated is true, absolutely true. The concerns with Dr. Means is that, number one, she's never seen a patient in clinical practice because she's never been in clinical practice, because she dropped out of her residency for whatever reason before she ever completed her residency. So, that's the concerns that most physicians have, and many of us have, and that's the concerns of why, in my opinion, she was a very, very poor choice for a Surgeon General. Okay. Surgeon General should have been Dr. Kelly Victory.
Well, I agree with you on that one, and I know she was in the running for it. All right, so interesting background of Dr. Means, who's the Surgeon General, but to the overall point that she's making, 1 in 2 people will get cancer. Young adult cancer up 70%. 50% of Americans have either diabetes or precursors to diabetes. This is insane, Doc.
It's horrible, and she's spot on about you can take this to the next level, which she didn't, but I have, and I'm involved with an independent research which is submitting major federal grantings of grants for our projects. And as we point out in our grants applications, this is a national security threat grant. Because listen, I'm a disabled veteran, and I live amongst the highest population of veterans here in the panhandle of Florida, and conservative veterans, I'll tell you. And do you realize that according to the Pentagon, in 2020, 75% of the current men and women eligible for the military, 18 to 25, are disqualified for medical problems. And that was before the pandemic. There are some models that suggest after the pandemic, and if the trend continues, it could be 90% of Americans are ineligible in that age group for military service by 2030.
Look,
that is a national security threat.
I am very quick to blame Big Pharma, the insurance companies, the hospital. They all certainly play a role in this. But I will also say, as Americans, we've gotten very lazy. And Americans have some personal responsibility in this as well. There's a reason why so many people have diabetes is because obesity plays a role in that as well. I'm looking at you. I don't know. Do you mind if I ask you how old you are?
I'm 73 years old this year, and I'm 6 feet 2 inches and 175 pounds of romping, stomping stainless steel death and destruction.
Well, look, and you got better hair than I do, and I'm 57 years old. So the point is, I am sure that took work, Doc, to be at 74 years old, look the way you do, feel the way you do. It's not just, we can't just blame Big Pharma and the hospital systems. We got to have some personal responsibility in this game.
Amen.
So this product Shield, right? Because cancers are on the rise. I do believe, and I know you agree with me. In fact, you've proven it. You have a book out, and so let me just show people the cover of that. It's called Sacrifice: How the Deadliest Vaccine in History Targeted the Most Vulnerable. And of course, we're talking about the COVID jab here. You've done all the research. I'm sure you agree that jab has driven cancer upwards. But this product Shield, before we talk about that, how beneficial is it to people that the wellness company has out there now, created by Dr. Victory, that is a preventative to cancer? What do you think of this?
I'm very impressed with Dr. Kelly Victory's formulation and her collaboration with the wellness company to put this out. Listen, these aren't proven efficacy in preventing cancer, and Dr. Kelly Victory doesn't claim that, but by randomized, double-blinded, placebo-controlled trials. But let's make it perfectly clear: none of the other drugs, none of the other vaccines that the pharmaceutical company is reaping billions of dollars on, none of them have been really honestly compared in true randomized double-blinded placebo-controlled trials. But what I will say, of the 9 or so botanicals in this formulation, there are some experts that believe that they will prevent cancer. And there are some research studies in vitro and in vivo suggesting that they may reduce the risk of cancer. So I think this combination is very, very strong. And I think it's very valuable. It's one arrow in the quiver of preventing cancer.
What's the other arrows?
Oh, there's so many other arrows, and you've touched on all of them. But let's start with obesity. Obesity is a huge risk factor for increasing cancer risk. So Also, any inflammatory disease, anything that brings inflammation into the body, environmental toxins, these highly refined foods, pre-processed foods, very concerned about these. There's many other environmental toxins. Genetics are very important. There's many syndromes that are inherited that may increase the risk, although that comprises a much lower component. So the status of the immune system is extremely important. Vitamin D levels, extremely important. And this hypervaccination, it's very clear now. It's irrefutable that the COVID-19 vaccines have caused a massive surge in cancers all over the world.
Yeah, and it is frightening. So as Dr. Thorpe just said, one of the arrows that you can use is most certainly this product, Shield, developed by Dr. Victory, who had cancer. This is her go-to, twc.health/grant. Use that promo code GRANT for 10% off. That's twc.health/grant. Use that promo code GRANT for 10% off. All right, Doc, let me play just a little bit more of Dr. Means here on with Joe Rogan. Listen.
We've got heart disease, which is almost totally preventable, as the leading cause of death in the United States, killing around 800,000 people per year. And I think as I kind of just looked around, and again, these are just statistics, I started trying to put the pieces together. Why is this happening? Why are these all going up all at once? And that led me on what is now a 7-8 year journey, ultimately leaving the surgical world, putting down my scalpel forever. Because what I realized is that when you go to the science with a root cause perspective, you go back to PubMed with a slightly different perspective, not how do I treat these diseases once they emerge, but why are they happening? You see a very obvious, blaring answer, which is why we had to write a book about it, which is that it's all caused by metabolic dysfunction, a term that I never learned in medical school. I learned about metabolic syndrome and the different individual diseases that make it up, but there is a problem. There is a fundamental breaking of our core cellular biology that is caused by our diet and the world we're living in, the modern world we're living in today, that is crushing the very way that the human body and our human cells can transmit food energy to life energy, to cellular energy. And so our bodies are essentially, fundamentally, because metabolic health is how we make energy in the body, the way that our environment is now synergistic to restoring our metabolic health, and the science is very clear about this, it's basically like all of us are a little bit dead while we're
all of us are a little bit dead. That's powerful. And I just cut her off at the end by accident. But do you agree with what she's saying there? And metabolic health, how important is that? Can you explain what she's saying in layman's terms here?
Yeah, I think in metabolic health, what we're talking about is mitochondrial health. The mitochondria for our audience are basically the energy production factory of the cells. So it's very important to detoxify and to enhance the function of the body at the cellular level. I think that there are several processes, there are several genes that are responsible for doing this. It's involved with the immune system, with the antibodies, with what we call autophagy, where the special cells, the mononuclear macrophages go in and eat up the toxins and excrete.
Do you agree, Doc, that is part of the root cause? And she talked about getting to the root cause, not just treating the symptoms. I think that's really maybe is the worst part of our healthcare system today, as we just treat symptoms and we don't go to the root cause of things.
True. What she's missed is she's got a total blind spot, she and her husband, with the COVID-19 vaccines and with other vaccines. And they don't talk about that. They really don't. And that's very concerning. And to be really blunt, one of the things that is cancer promoting and cancer causing is sugar. Sugar is a poison. It's addictive, and it's a killer. And there's a lot of people with sugar addiction, and again, that was put into our diet based upon corrupt medical journal articles and industry that was trying to demonize healthy fats and take them out. And what took the vacuum up? Sugars. For the industry with, fraudulent publications, some from the New England Journal of Medicine in the 60s and 70s. So it's all connected back to corruption of the medical journals and profit. So sugar is, number one, is very inflammatory. Number two, it increases the risk of cancer because cancer cells, bacteria, viruses, parasites, they can't survive by getting their energy from fat like God gave us humans the ability to do. So they can only flourish with sugar.
Wow.
Same with cancer cells. You delete sugar, you're going to reduce that risk of cancer. And very important.
I have always been a huge proponent of cutting sugar from your diet and cutting it down. And I went through basically a cleanse where I tried to do as much as I could to cut all sugar, except if it was in fruit, from my diet, and basically detox my cellular level. I really went through a whole process to try to make that happen. You mentioned the vaccine, and she's not been as strong a critic as you guys have. Rand Paul, who's also a doctor, I saw this from him. Now, he wrote a book about a lot of this. This is him being interviewed about the government cover-up. And I know you've been a huge exposer of the government for covering up a lot of things. Let me play this clip of Rand Paul. I thought you might find it interesting.
They're saying they knew that their funded research, which was done in China because there was less oversight, is what ultimately led to the development of SARS-CoV-2 and it escaped from the lab.
They knew there was a high, everything's a proportion, everything is a percentage. They knew there was a high chance it was, and they chose to cover it up because in the book I say this is about the business of science. This isn't about science, it's about the business of science. And people have to realize there are some good people in this world. There are good scientists who want to cure cancer, but there are many people getting millions of dollars. And there's nothing against money. I'm all for money, and good people should be paid for important discoveries. But they shouldn't be paid not to tell us the truth, and it should be exposed. I think all the scientists should have to reveal their royalties. Not one scientist in government reveals their royalties. Some of them are now getting millions of dollars in this stuff. Pfizer paid $800 million and Moderna paid $400 million, and they've taken that money and now they put it in a foundation that I have no oversight in government over. Government has no oversight of. There's an NIH foundation that has $1.2 trillion in it given from Big Pharma for their share of the COVID vaccine. So no, it's an extraordinary thing where in private they were very open to the fact, leaning towards and in favor of the fact that the virus came from a lab. In public, they were disdainful. They got Facebook to take all our crap down. They got Facebook to take down the discussion of it as a conspiracy. That's an evil thing to do, and it's dishonest. It's not just you're a bad person. If you were in the government and you were leading people astray as to the cause of something because you funded, you deserve to be punished, really, in a criminal way.
Well, I agree with him there. Your thoughts, Doc?
Yeah, it's powerful, and he's spot on. He is a truth teller. He's a physician, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for him. Now, obviously, I don't agree with every single one of his platform.
Do you want to know what I say, Doc, about the Pauls, both his father and Rand Paul? They're libertarians, and I think there is a great place for libertarians in most of what they believe in. I'd probably fall right in line with. But I say about libertarians, especially the Pauls, their good ideas are really good, but their bad ideas are really bad. This is one of his good ideas right here. I'm with him on this.
Yeah. One of the things that is germane to our discussion and the clips that you've played is what just came out in the Epstein files, which is extraordinarily upsetting. So, yeah, it was very upsetting. I didn't know that NIH had a $1.2 trillion slush fund in their trust. That's very scary. But the Epstein files documented emails, several of them, between Bill Gates and between other J.P. Morgan and others that were discussing planning a pandemic for a massive financial windfall. Think about that. That was in 2015, 2016. A lot of disclosures coming from these Epstein files. Also, of course, I'm from Ann Arbor, right? I'm a big Michigan fan. And, when I saw the Epstein emails come out on how Ohio State University was involved with some of the corruption and promotion because there was a connection there with Jeffrey Epstein and his mentor with Ohio State University, and how their doctors were involved with treating some of these sexually abused women for STDs and so forth.
Well, there will still be more to come out from these Epstein documents as we see it. I think there's a lot of people that a lot of people are disappointed in after reading this, and we're seeing the ramifications of that. You clearly, sir, are not one of them. We love having you on the program, Dr. James Thorpe. Let me tell people about your book again. This is the book Sacrifice, how the deadliest vaccine in history targeted the most vulnerable. Doc, where can people find the book?
Yes, go to my website, drjamesthorpe.com. drjamesthorpe.com.
All right, drjamesthorpe.com. I would urge everyone to do that. And Dr. Thorpe, it's always great to talk to you. Thank you for sharing some time with me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And folks, let me remind all of you about today's sponsor, and that, of course, is the Wellness Company. We're so grateful for them. I talked about Shield. It's very important you start a process of preventative maintenance of your own body. God gives you one body, take care of it. And then when things go bad, do you have one of these prescription medication kits? I hope you do. This has everything you need, at least the essentials when it comes to antibiotics. Ivermectin is in here, antivirals, antiparasitics in this kit. I urge you to get one from the Wellness Company. 10% off if you go to twc.health/grant. Use the promo code GRANT again for 10% off. And we talked a lot about the COVID vaccine. Ultimate Spike Detox. This is a daily for me. I take it every day as a daily supplement. This gets that spike protein, whether you had the illness, COVID, or whether you had the vax. This is important. twc.health/grant. Use the promo code GRANT for 10% off. That's going to do it for us today, folks. Thank you so much for watching. Stinchfield's Army Rolls. We'll see you on the Real America's Voice show tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Thanks for watching, everybody.